all day long. We go from project to project. We have an end in mind with each project that we work on. We have a goal, and we have a pathway of how we're going to achieve that goal. The question is, how can we improve our effectiveness and our efficiency? How can we achieve goals faster and easier? And how can we mentor and train other people to work with us and develop their human capital? How can we improve the value of what we do? I'm going to offer you today 10 steps towards looking at that process. It's a complex process because there's a lot of moving parts to it, particularly when you're working with other people and you're helping other people to grow and mature and develop, while at the same time growing and maturing and developing your own communications and organizational skills. I say to begin with is, let's consider that the break-even point is 10% net profit, not 0. Typically, break-even is that formula where you have what is your revenue, what is your expenses and overhead and cost of goods, and if it's 0 is the net, then that's break-even. And that's a wonderful term in accounting, but from an operations management perspective, it's foolhardy. Because at break-even, you're teeter-tottering. And at 5%, which you would consider to be a lot better, I have a client that's doing just under $4 million, and their net is about 4 or 5%, and on $4 million, that's pretty good. But I'm saying it's a dangerous perspective. We have to get to 10%. When we're at 10%, there's greater stability. There's some room to make a mistake or to adjust to surprise come up in the marketplace. How we achieve this now is if you have, let's say, use $1 million as your gross figure, and 10% is $100,000, that's $900,000. So you look at what your facilities expenses are, what your typical overhead is, and a lot of people say, well, how could you possibly do that? It's actually very stable from business to business. It's pretty stable. When you look at the year and you divide it, your average is pretty stable. Now, there are seasonal variations you have to take into consideration. So you have an average for the quarter or for the 4-month period or something like that. You come up with what your facilities overhead is. You subtract it from that $900,000 difference, and let's say it's $400,000. That's $500,000. That's your labor cap. So you look at what your typical revenue is, you look at what your typical cost of goods are and your gross profit, and then you subtract your facilities expenses, and the difference is your labor cap. And that is what you've got to stick with. You can't go above that labor cap, because if you do, you're eating into that 10% net profit, and your goal is 10% net profit. You don't use your revenue as your goal, you use your net profit as your goal. As you work to do that, you develop your team, you mentor your team, you groom, you support, you help your team to be more and more effective, and you support their growth and their improvement. And as you do that, you watch your net profit, and you become more and more effective until you've grown your net profit to 15%. Once you've hit 15% net profit, then you have the flexibility to hire additional staff and put more resources into training and developing and evaluating and give additional training and mentoring. The minute that you hire that additional staff or put them on for additional hours or hire additional consulting work to develop that staff, then your net profit is going to drop back from 15% back down towards 10%. But as you develop and work with the staff, then their skills are going to go up. They're going to gradually go up back towards 15%. And that's the game, is you go from 10% to 15%, add staff, drop down to 10%, innovate, go back up to 15%. This way, if you have a seasonal variation or a surprise comes into the marketplace, a new vendor or something, you've got the flexibility. If you drop to 5%, you can still recover. You've got that flexibility, you've got that buffer. Along the way, you're developing your systems, and your systems have to be in writing. You have to have them structured, and they're always going to be changing. So don't think you can write your systems down and they're going to be the same, because they're always going to be in the developmental process. It's the process of writing the systems which is as important or more important than the systems themselves. So you're training your staff to write down and reflect upon what they're doing, how they're doing it, and how they can do it better. Because once it's written, you can brainstorm, is that the best way we should do this? Well, how could we make it better? Let's rewrite this description. It's in the rewriting of the description that helps us to give the reflection the ability to see and to objectify and to make refinements and improvements. By building training programs, again, written training programs, you train your staff in how to train each other and how to train new members coming aboard. And you train them in this methodology. You open your books to your staff. You show what your books are. And by doing that, you're teaching them and inspiring them to upgrade themselves as they steer, and everyone's going in the same direction because everyone sees the direction of the company and everyone's working together to achieve it. Then you draw up an agreement in principle with your key leader who you identified, and you begin to sell that leader's stock very gradually, and you require them to make a cash deposit of enough money that it's going to hurt them if they were to walk away from it, and you were to recoup something from your investment, but not so much money as to crush them. And you train them in how to develop the business, and then you have the business begin to buy back your stock from you. And over a gradual period of time, over a period of years really, you're able to gradually step away from the operations and successfully transfer the ownership of the business. And in the meantime, you've grown the value and you can maximize the value you receive from your business. Thank you.